Carolyn Doobie here. What's the play for today? Well, today I am being inspired by the everyday for this Let's Play video. Now, what inspired me was a pattern that I found while I was outside, and as soon as I saw that pattern, I so wanted to incorporate it into my art journal. Except here's the thing. This pattern is full of straight lines, right angles, precision compared to what I normally do. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted right angles, straight lines in my art journal. Now, I didn't see anything wrong with this. I thought this won't be any problem. And I actually attempted to do this. Did not go as planned. Yet, surprisingly, I'm not really that great at measuring things. And then it went a completely different direction than what I'd planned. Yeah, surprise, surprise. Well, this is a pattern that was at the crosswalk while I was out on a bike ride, so I took a picture of it and let it inspire my play today. Now, I had this idea to create that with those big raised bumps, a kind of grid. So first thing I needed were perfect squares because that design was very, very precise and geometric. So rather than trying to actually cut the squares, I just grabbed a little paper punch and I am punching out a bunch of squares off of some scrap watercolor paper. Well, now I need to make that raised bump on these things. And to do that, what I'm going to use are glue dots. So I'm just going to grab some really thick glue dots. I mean, these are ones that had a lot of dimension to them or have a lot of dimension. And with them, I am just placing them right in the middle of these squares of paper. Now, these glue dots, it used to be if I even touched them, I was permanently stuck to them and it was very hard to get off my fingers, except that these are really, really old glue dots that I wasn't storing very well, so dust has gotten on them and different things, so they're not quite as sticky, but really after this many years, that's fair. So with these, it's actually perfect for this because I'm using them for the dimension. Now, the top of them is sticky right now, but that's going to change because we're going to put some paint on top of these. I grabbed some yellow acrylic paint and I am just generously painting all over the top of this. So I want to get the glue dot and the paper. And what this is going to do is allow the glue dot not to be quite so sticky because it's going to be covered in paint. And then these will start to take on a solid color. And that way I can start creating a solid colored pattern with all sorts of texture based on what I saw when I was out on that bike ride. The toothpick, you're wondering, what's that for? Well, that's because these little things would slide around on me, so it's kind of acting as my other hand holding it in place. One thing that I did learn is if I put the toothpick right in the middle of the glue dot and hold it there, it does create an impression in the glue dot, so it works better if I actually hold it on the paper part and not right on the glue dot. Well, with the extra paint that I had left over, I'm simply painting a piece of scrap paper here so that I'll have coordinating paper because I want to create these very, very straight lines that go between these to recreate that pattern that I saw. So I want very straight edges. I want things precisely done on this. And if you've seen many of my videos, you might be thinking, hey, this doesn't quite sound like the Carolyn we know, because precise, lined up, straight lines, things measured. Yeah, I'm actually saying those things because that's the plan that's in my head. Now you're probably seeing the oops coming, the outstanding opportunity presenting suddenly, because when I used the paper cutter and I cut the lines out of these, I actually measured very carefully. I was working very diligently to make sure that these were all even and equal widths. Clearly, they are not even and equal widths. Some of them aren't even rectangular. They're more of a triangular shape. And I have to say, I was feeling a little disappointed with this. I really had to say oops a couple of times because I'm like, doggone it, I'd actually worked to measure this. But in the end, it is just an outstanding opportunity presenting suddenly. Because I made plenty of these, so I can just grab the ones that I need. I'll get the ones that look the closest in the same size, and I'm going to use those. At least that's what I thought I was going to do, but I so didn't end up doing that. So I grabbed the glue stick and I'm going to start putting together the beginning components of my grid. And actually put the glue on the wrong side. Yeah, another oops. And I'm going to start building a bunch of these together and then I'm going to lay them on top of each other in a crisscross to create the grid. Now you might say I was even fixated on the whole grid thing, which to me was very strange because again, usually things being in perfect right angles and straight lines is not that big a deal to me, but again, it was feeling a little bit like a fixation happening. But about this point where I did the third one, all of a sudden I realized, oh, I really like these like this. Notice that one, it was even on a triangular piece of paper, and I switched it out to put it on more of a rectangular piece of paper for its pole. And my three there that were supposed to be the exact same size width, those long skinny papers, they're not. And I really like it that they're not identical. Well, at this point, I abandoned that whole grid nonsense and that everything was going to have to be perfect and even and lined up and that kind of crazy. So I am just now creating more of these sort of yellow lights on a stick. I don't know what exactly to call these things. And I do have plenty of extra supplies over there. They'll just be saved for some future project. They'll get used at some point. And I now need to glue these things down. Since I know exactly where I want them, I'm going to glue them down. And while I'm doing that, let me tell you about the background that I'm using here for this. This is one I made maybe 5 years ago. It involves some paint, some gesso. Yeah, I don't actually really remember exactly what I did. My journals are full of pages like this where I'll start a background and leave it and just come back to it whenever it calls to me. And that is one of the ways that I actually help myself play, because I don't put a time limit on it. That time limit actually just created a lot of stress for me. I used to have one of those and thought, when I start a project, I have to finish it right away. And now I kind of go, okay, I've made a background and I'll let it sit until I decide to come back to it. And if you'd like to know more ways to let yourself play, I have got all sorts of resources for you on the blog. So head on over and check out the free workshop Permission to Play, as well as all the videos in the Let's Play series at acolorfuljourney.com. Well, those stoplights, all of a sudden they became like little ledges that you'd run across. I don't know if this is the old Mario Brothers Nintendo game running through my head or what, but all of a sudden I wanted to have a person running across those. So to make that happen, I grabbed my Learning to Dance stencil that I created for over at StencilGirl Products, and I'm just going to stencil the very smallest dancer on there. So I'm going to have her running right across. I'm using a cosmetic sponge, and you'll notice that I'm going straight up and down. I'm using a thick paint and I'm going straight up and down because that's going to give me my best chance at having a very crisp image. So once I have her up top, I realized I need something on the bottom. So I've got her running across the top and I want some words or a title down there in the space on the bottom. So I'm going to use that same stencil to do that for me. I'm going to use the words "you learn as you go." So I'm not using the entire title on the stencil. I'm just going to pick the parts that fit for me. And it's all one line that isn't going to fit in this space. But that's okay, this is a stencil, so we can do some things to adapt it and make it fit. Now, as I'm stenciling with that cosmetic sponge, if I want to be careful and watch where I'm going, I can do that. Or what I can do is, once I get it in position, is I can put a piece of paper or something over the things around it that I don't want the paint to stencil. And what I'm actually using is the leftover bits from the glue dots. So that little piece of wax paper, you know, that they're on. So I'm going to kind of put that around it, and I'm just going to hold it with my fingers. That way I don't have to stencil that carefully. And I'm just using the same paint that I did the dancer in because, frankly, I had it on the palette. Why waste anything? I'm just going to use that. And so I'm going to stencil those first couple of words. That's the "you learn." And now I'm going to bring in the next one, "as you go." Yeah, I could actually let it dry all the way, but that's a crazy thought. I'm just not that patient. I'm willing to fan it a little bit with my hand, but that's about it. So I'm going to make sure that I've got it about as straight as I make anything, and then I can put the paper back over it if I want to use that to protect it, and then I'll get the rest of the title stenciled in there. I got to tell you at this point, this is when I'm going to stop with this art journal page because it feels right to me to stop now, but I also know that this page is not complete. It's not finished, but I don't have to finish it all in one sitting. I don't have to finish it all this instant. I give myself permission to let me take as long as I want to finish something. Well, thanks for joining me for today's play. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of my videos, hit that subscribe button. And of course, if you would like to get on my newsletter and get a free downloadable video and PDF, all you have to do is head on over to acolorfuljourney.com. And I've also got a free workshop over there called Permission to Play. And of course, if you know of somebody who you think could use a little more play in their day, I'd be so grateful if you shared this video with them. Thanks for letting me be a part of your colorful journey.